Hello, everybody. Welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading. I'm Jerrica.
And I'm Lia. Phew,
So,
what a day.
I know. This is like...
Yeah, it's been quite hectic today, but I'm happy we have the time to sit down and chat about these amazing books.
I know. I was thinking about it too because I've read them and then I started to listen to like silly romance ones. And by silly romance, I mean like...
The silliest of romance.
Like, you know, the romances where it's like this accidental pregnancy trope.
Oh, yeah. But silly romance, I don't know, sometimes I go like, in my head a little bit, and a silly romance I think, ooh, like clowns.
Oh, clowns. No, that's dark romance.
Dark
to me.
romance.
That goes dark.
Fair
No,
enough,
this
fair
was
enough.
like, and there's one, I didn't finish the book because I was like, no, I can't be on board with this. So she like falls in love with this guy, but his roommate is obsessed with her. And then her boyfriend dies in a motorcycle accident. And
And
in
then she ends
her
up with the
grief,
roommate.
in her like grief period, she finds out she's pregnant with the dead guy's baby. And she ends up with the roommate guy who's been obsessing over her from day one. And I was like, nah, I'm not finishing this.
No, that's a bit weird. I would have finished it anyways.
You
'cause
did? You would have?
I don't
No,
give up on
it was
books.
bad.
I don't give up on books. It's like
No, I
only
gave up.
there's
I
like one
actually
book that
rarely
I
give up.
One book I gave up on. I read like the first few pages and I was like, there's spelling errors in here and I hate all of it.
Okay, I see.
And then I was like, no, I cannot do this. I
didn't love the narrators either, so it was like, you know what, I'm going to happily let this one go and just like assume they're going to end up together and happily ever after and like live this guy's legacy on.
Yeah.
But I wasn't attached to characters enough to finish reading it. But then I started to listen to another one, and you know what's so funny? I didn't realize it was number 3 in a series when I started to listen to it. But then I started to be like, I read a book once that had this other girl.
Oh, you did like me, where it's like,
in it.
where you're like, this seems familiar. I wonder. But usually it's because I'm rereading something that I just forgot that I read before, and I'm like, picked it up again because I'm like, ooh, this sounds so exciting. And then I'm like, yeah, it does because I already read it. And I already said this exact thing before.
I had read book 1 and 2.
So you just like, you just fell into book 3. That's excellent.
But
That is
isn't that a
excellent.
coincidence?
Yeah.
Because it was like halfway through, I'm like, oh, wait, her like boyfriend Dominic is coming. And they were in Japan. No, I have read this book. Like all of these pieces came together. I'm like, shit, I know this side story. And then I realized, oh shit, this is about this blindfold club. I had no idea.
Blindfold club. Here we go again.
I know.
Here we go again. Why do you always end up in these BDSM?
It was not. It did not
more
start. I mean, it did not
sex
start out like
cults, whatever.
I know, exactly. No, it was like Scribe was like, you might like this, and I'm like, pop it on. Well, I had like a gazillion things to do.
Scribe.
But Scribe really, I would really have to say, has like very low quality books as well as super high quality
Oh yes, for
books.
sure. No, Scribes is it's
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 like
hit
the
and
dark
miss.
hole. It's like
It
the dark
is
hole
hit
for
and
books.
miss.
Because in Storytel, you can't find those like shitty romances.
No.
Even if you like Google
you
something
can.
that's like a middle romance.
But then it will
It's
be
very-
translated to Swedish.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. Anyways, this week
Yeah.
we have read The Bear and the Nightingale
Yeah, 'cause
by
it's for our
Catherine
book
Arden.
club.
And we already talked about this during book club, so I am very confused because after reading book 1, which I finished, I immediately, literally put it down and bought book 2 and started reading it. Like, didn't even take a breath in
Wow.
between.
Wow.
Plowed my way all the way through book 2 and did the same thing for book 3. So I finished book 3 yesterday.
Whoa.
And then I was like, oh, we're going to talk about this tomorrow. Where did book 1 end? And it feels like I've already talked about this, but because we talked
did.
about it at book
Yeah.
club. So, but I'm going to re-go over then all of my highlighted passages because this book
yeah.
was amazing.
It was amazing.
Loved
but-
it, loved it, loved it, loved it.
You know, you said that it like was a little bit
folklore.
draggy in the beginning. Not draggy.
Yeah.
You said it was like
I had a little bit of a hard time
it was a
getting into it.
slow-mo intro,
Because
right?
it was just like history.
It was a lot of history and
Yeah.
like a giant info dump.
Yeah.
And then you had to keep track of all the names.
Everyone had 3 names,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
Minimum of 3 names. And then
I'm pretty
also,
sure I was still confused
and also
by
some
the end.
titles, like like there's the priest Constantine.
Yeah.
He's also Batyushka.
Yeah.
And then he's also like, there's all of these like honorary title things that come with his role as a priest. And this came as well with like the princes that were not quite princes. And then there was the boyars and it was a lot of things to keep track of. Yeah. And I only discovered the glossary in the end after finishing the first book, which I kind of wish I would have discovered it at first, because this would have helped me immensely if I would have just had all of these words explained to me.
Yes.
So, pro tip, find the glossary. It's at the end of the book.
Yes.
But anyways, this book, do you have a super summary for us?
No, I didn't. It was because there's too many characters to super summarize.
I mean, it's a folklorish book that's in the medieval times in Russia, or in Rus. Yeah. But it's Russia. It's basically before the creation of Russia. So we're talking late 1400s, early 1500s. And honestly, I've read a few books that take place in this time, but I don't think any other book I've read made me feel so much like I was in this time as this book. But just the whole, like, at one point they pack ice. When the winter comes and the first freeze comes, they cut ice and they put it in their windows so they still get light in, but they keep the cold out.
Right.
And then at one point there's like this vampire, an Yupir.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I can't say this word, but it's a vampire, basically. It's a woken dead person that will drink your blood. Comes and she pulls this ice out of the window, and then she climbs through, and I'm like, but what about the glass? And then I realized, oh shit, we're like pre-glass in the window times.
Yeah.
Which is like way back in the days. Way back in the days. So, and all the smell, it was very much... I mean, I'm gonna struggle here with keeping to just a book one. I'm sorry, but a lot of the description all the way through the series is very much on the smell and on the feel of things and how cold you are and how it was like, because they spend a bit of time in Moscow, in the second book and in the third book, and it's very much like you really get the sense of what it was like.
That's cool.
Back in the days then, and you also realize that it was a shit time to be a woman. And anytime any woman had a good idea or knew how to ride or, I don't know, did anything crafty, all the men were like, that's a girl. Witchcraft! Witch! That's a witch. Because she's a woman. No woman can do these things. Clearly gotta be a witch. You know? So yeah.
Say that men are not witches.
No, but men are able and capable people.
True,
and women, and then it's also like, because the main girl, Vasilisa, who's basically the first 3 chapters that we talked about the last time, it's just basically her being born. Right. And up to the age of 6 or something like that. And then the rest of the book, it's how she grows up. And there I got a little bit confused, because how old would you say she is when they try to marry her off?
Like 16, 15.
Because I thought she was 14.
But they mentioned something about 14 earlier, and then it was like too young.
Because they said that she started bleeding when she was 14, I think. Yeah. So I kept in my head that she was 14. And then in book 2, they say she's 17. I'm like, okay. But there's been no summer in between. And this is all I kept thinking. Right. Like,
no, I think they just mentioned 14, because I remember that number too. But then I figured time went on.
Yeah, so maybe she's around 60. Okay, that makes sense. So Vasilisa, it's basically her up until the age of 16, and she's her mom was a bit of a witch-ish. I mean, connection. Like, she comes from this woman who rode into Moscow on a beautiful horse and had miracles in her wake and married the grand prince and was called a witch. That's her great grandmother. Or her
just
mom?
Regular grandma.
Or grandma, yeah. And Vasilisa, she's or Vasya or Vasoshka or whatever. any name starting with V you want to call it, just go ahead. It seems to be fine in Russian name calling. But she's tall and she's skinny and she's got like really defined features. So I'm thinking sharp cheekbones, like probably very well-defined jaw, and she's got wide set eyes and a big mouth. And these are things that are not considered beautiful in that time. So they keep calling her ugly throughout all of the books. And it's fascinating because all of these guys, all these big men, they're like, oh, I like my women more womanly. And it's like, they want them rounder, they want them, you know, with less ideas of their own. Preferably hiding in the fucking kitchen or, you know, in their closed rooms, like not going out. And then she will do something and they'll be like, why am I attracted to this woman? And they'll be all shocked with themselves and very surprised because it's like, but she's so gangly and ugly. Why am I feeling this way? It's very funny. But she sees all of these little folklorish creatures, like the house elf kind of things.
They're so cute. I really like all of those.
And she gives offering to them, but it's right in the peak of like the Christian overtaking of Russ, I guess. So it's like it's a lot of churches everywhere.
Heavy
There's
religion.
lots of priests and basically the Christian faith or the Orthodox Christian faith is trying to get rid of all these folklorish house elves. Kind of, they don't want people to pray or, you know, worship both because there's only one God in Christianity.
True.
So all of these house elf like creatures, they are disappearing because no one believes in them. I guess they're like Peter Pan, I do believe in fairies, I do kind of thing. Like they need to be believed in and seen and given like scraps from your table and stuff like that to kind of keep going on. And she can see them and she does all of these for them. And then there's been this strange man that her father met in Moscow. They gave him like this gemstone that he wants Vasilisa to wear. And if the father gives it to Danya, who's the nursemaid kind of thing. And she keeps it. This man, he visits her in her dreams and is like, give her the gem. And she keeps saying, oh, she's too young, she's too young. So she doesn't give her the gem. And then we come into like the devils, like the bear, the man sleeping in the clearing. Who's like chaos, evil, whatever he is. He needs to be bound. It gets complicated, this whole story. But
that's what I mean. It's a hard super summary because there's a lot of moving pieces in it. And like everything comes back to this like folklore tale about the winter...
The Winter King, which is Morosko, which is the one that gave the gem to Vasilisa's dad. And it turns out that the gem is this talisman. That kind of binds them together in a way. And when she starts wearing it, he can come to her easier. And he fights with her. And when the bear, he's been bound, but the bounds have weakened and now he's almost free. And if he comes free, then he will raise the dead. He will bring fire and chaos and fear. And it's not good for people. So in an effort to bind him, Vasilisa's dad in the end sacrifices himself. There's a bunch of stuff that happens in between there. Like they try to marry her off to keep her from this Winter King because she needs to be a virgin because, well, folklores are shits like that always. And so on. But this book it's a fantastic story and we don't make it justice. We don't do it justice here on summarizing it because it's very rich and it's very...
But in an uncomplicated way also. It wasn't like I felt lost in any... sometimes the names, of course. Yeah. But not in the story.
No, but it's a very richly told tale, which should be read because Catherine Arden tells it better than I am doing right now.
In one of the summaries, it said that it was similar to, or fans of Erin Morgenstern's Night Circus would enjoy this book. And Night Circus is a book that we read for this pod as well. And I see the similarities in like the descriptiveness of the book and like the richness of the story and the complexity of the story also.
Yeah. Yes.
Not that there's anything having to do with the circus or any similarity in the stories.
But the way of telling the story. Yeah, I can see that. And I love that book.
I know.
And I love these books. So clearly this person was accurate.
Yeah.
And this book had I found an error in it.
Whoa. Yeah. But of course.
At one point, this nursemaid says she needs to get a rowanwood stake. And then a few pages later, she says, I need to get a birchwood. And I was like, she said rowanwood. No. And I actually went back and looked and she said rowanwood and then she said birchwood. So the wood changed. It's the only fault I could find though. So well done, Catherine.
I know.
But it had lots of fun stuff also in this book. Like a lot of I highlighted a lot of text that was like Vasilisa's dad, his name is Piotr.
Yeah.
And he says at one point, I must be old, Piotr thought to himself, if my son is being kind to me. It's like... And it's also the description of things. Like, there's a lot of horse descriptions in this book because there's lots of different kinds of horses.
Yeah.
And Piotr has this Mongol stallion called Buran. And he's evil, this horse. Yeah. And at one point... Piotr has left the stallion with this guy who's had to saddle him, and he says, like, a man had saddled Buran, Piotr's evil-tempered Mongol stallion, and was clinging white-knuckled to the beast's head stall. Piotr slapped his waiting mount, dodged his snapping teeth, and swung onto the saddle. His grateful attendant fell back, gasping. It's like he hits him, jumps away from the teeth that comes and bites him, and the guy was like, "Oh, thank God, I'm done. I did not have to deal with that anymore." And there's a lot of descriptions like this. And there's a horse that come into like towards the end of book 2, and it's a lot in book 3, and that horse is fucking like. Every time they even talk to her, like her ears go back and she snaps and she kicks and she's like super like bad tempered. And I like this one because when they try to marry Vasya off to this other guy, and he's awful, and then she turns out to be a better rider than him, and he's like, well, fuck this, I don't want a woman who can ride better than me, so you are clearly a witch, I will not marry you. You know.
You know how to ride a horse? Witchcraft. Yeah, so then they decide they're going to send her to a convent instead, to save her, so she's going to be married to God, and this would not be good for Vasilisa, like she's much too free-spirited to go to a convent. And then she has this conversation with the Frost Demon, with the Winter King, and she says, they were going to send me to a convent. I decided I would rather freeze in a snowbank. Her skin shivered all over. Well, that was before I began to freeze in a snowbank. It hurts. It's not pleasant to freeze.
Oh, it's so painful to freeze.
It is.
But he was very well described in this book. Like, you could really feel the cold all the time. Like, yeah.
But anyways, quality book.
So quality. And there's so many cool places in this book. I think that was it too, because when they go to this clearing in the firs where he has his fir tree, where he has his house, the Winter King, and when they're there, like, no time passes, so she can spend like a year there, and then she would go back and she would come back before dawn on the same day she disappeared, on the same night she disappeared. So there's lots of cool things like that messes with, and this comes even more in book 2 and 3. Like, they travel the midnight road at one point where you can't go to sleep, but you're always at midnight, and you can go anywhere where there's midnight. And it will stay midnight until you go to sleep, kind of thing. And it's super cool, but it gets very confusing as to where you are in time. But they work with it really, really well. Now, very well written.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the word.
I can't speak today. It's been a long day. And I would definitely recommend this book.
I would definitely recommend it too. So the next book we're reading is a heist book, because the last heist book we read
was not a heist book. No, it was not a heist book.
It was not really a heist
I guess it was technically a heist, but it wasn't very heisty. So no. So this book came up on all the lists. Like me, I love Six of Crows. Like love Six of Crows.
But this book is exactly like.
So I was like, I want to read a book like Six of Crows. Yeah. And this book kept coming up. Like, if you like Six of Crows, you will like this book. So I was like, fine. But then I read the description, I'm like, don't want to be in Paris in the 1800s.
True,
but then I was like, but I really want a good heist book, so, I'm going to have to suck it up. And the book
I love the setting. I love the
I like it now. But,
okay.
But it's The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi.
All right.
Chokshi?
Yeah.
Yeah. Roshani Chokshi. No,
there you go.
Roshani Chokshi. All right, good. Let's find someone else saying her name somewhere and pretend that I said it like that. And we have 2 covers. They're very similar to each other. Yeah. One of them has like the leaves around the side. They have some like gilded golden thing, and the Eiffel Tower in the middle. It kind of looks a little bit like a gate. And
also a little royal kind of lettering and stuff like that. It makes me think of that there's going to be some kings and queens and things.
Yeah. The other one has just no Eiffel Tower, just a bunch more leaves and some flowers built in here. Based on this cover, what do you reckon this book is about?
I think it's about a monarchy.
Yeah.
A monarchy that, like, tries to take over another land.
I have to say, this cover would probably throw me quite a bit. Because it's called The Gilded Wolves. But there's only plants on it. And I would be like, what the frick is this? Based on this cover...
obviously not a term for a wolf book. It's...
I don't know, man.
That people are, like...
Maybe. And would you pick this up based on this cover?
I probably would look at it, yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't.
Because all those books that I like, The Court of Thorns and Roses, they have a similar cover, you know?
I don't like the plants.
You don't love plants? Oh, plants, and Lia is thrown off.
Yeah. Flowery shit. Don't like it.
That's hilarious.
Anyways. Okay, so one would pick up, one would not. Good.
Yeah.
And this book, so far, it's in Paris. We're in the late 1800s, and the foundation of this is that there were fragments of Babel that were distributed around the world.
Yeah.
And these fragments allow people to do magic. They call it forging. But it's magic.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can be affinity towards solid, liquid, or gas. So it's elemental very much, it seems. And then there's the Order of Babel that will keep these fragments safe. That's what I gathered. And there in France, there used to be 4 houses. One fell.
Yeah.
One had no heir, which is apparently a lie.
Not true, yeah.
And the other 2 are still there. So that's the house Core and the house Nix. Those are the 2 houses that are still standing, and the one that had no heir is the house Vanth. And Severin, who's our main guy, I believe, he's the lost heir of the house Vanth.
Yeah.
And in the prologue, we see the matriarch of the house Core have her ring, which had been welded to her finger, have her finger cut off and her ring stolen. And Severin is at an auction, and he wants to steal a compass containing a map.
That helps them find the Babel.
And he tries, and his hand is stuck in this bear creature of the house Nix. And he and his fellow thief, I guess, Enrique, are in trouble.
Yeah.
But then they figure it out. But blood is running. Then we jump to Layla.
Oh, okay, Layla, yeah.
And Layla is a showgirl and a baker. And she dances as L'Enigma at a cabaret. And she bakes at L'Eden, which is a hotel, bar, restaurant. I don't know. Not sure. It's owned by Severin, maybe, perhaps. I don't know. And she is there with Sophia. And Sophia is an engineer, and she can forge solid states such as metal or precious stone. And then there's Tristan, and he can forge liquid states, so he works mostly with plants.
Yeah.
And then Enrique is a something, not sure. Then I forgot to predict.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
So what do you think is going to happen in this book?
I can see, of course, they're going to be like this ragtag group of thieves. Like, they're all going to get together. I quite like them all already.
Yeah, they call themselves a choir, which I really like. I was like, don't call yourself thieves. Yeah, choir. We like to acquire things, yes. That's great.
I like that, too. So I figure they're going to be in search for the Babel, but is this one book or is it...
No, there's 3.
It's 3 books. Okay, so they're going to find something. They're going to have to... I'm thinking Six of Crows, you know, where they, like, get another rich guy involved and then they have to, like, turn on him because he turns on them and, like, all of this sort of...
I'm going to predict the end of the 3rd book.
Yeah, okay.
As House Vanth is going to come back.
But that's just the end of the 3rd? You don't think that's going to happen before?
No. I think all of this is going to lead to House Vanth coming back.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And maybe the Order of the Babel being, like, destroyed fully. So the fragments will be free. This is, like, long overarching, but a lot of shit's going to happen in between.
Yes. But I'm quite excited about it, because there's adventure happening.
But are you listening or reading?
Reading.
Okay, because I started listening to this.
Oh.
And, oh my god, I had to stop, like, immediately, because this narrator, she does a French accent anytime someone speaks, And we're in France, so anytime anyone speaks, she does a French accent. And I'm like, I cannot do this. This is not going to work for me.
Okay, I'm so glad I didn't listen. No, I've been reading it, so I can have my own, like, Madame Beaujolais
so I had
voice
to,
inside
like,
my head.
stop and then start over and read it, because I'm like, this is not going to work for me. I have no idea what the frick she's talking about, and her French accent is throwing me off.
Okay.
Yeah.
But good.
Good.
So read it.
Read it.
Yeah.
Well, I might listen to it if I run short of time, but I'm planning on reading it now when I'm done with all of the Nightingale and Burying the Nightingale.
Too. And that's why I'm listening to all these silly romances.
Yeah, I started listening to All the Lights We Cannot See, and then I realized that this is not a good book to be listening to at the same time. Because it's also in France around the same time.
Oh, no.
So yeah, not great.
Okay, I see what you mean. You can't overlap those things.
This is going to
be
very
strategic in your multi-reading.
I'm going to have to find like futuristic something.
Yeah. Futuristic. Womp womp. Or you could go back to your hockey romance books.
I love hockey romance books. Maybe I will do that.
But not if they have kids.
Not if they have kids. They need to be like college age. I like it when they're like,
I would love this book. It made me like question up my validity of my relationship, because they were such a solid couple, and you're like, oh, I can't read this. They have kids. But we're in our 30s too.
Yeah, where is the fantasy in that? I have kids. I'll just freaking read my own life.
The fantasy is a communicative working relationship.
Are you saying that's not my reality?
I'm talking about myself now, but I'm also saying it's not anybody's reality. This is only something that we read in books.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I hear you.
Escapism.
Escapism. Okay. I still prefer my hockey guys to be college aged, but I will give your book a try.
Androgynous hockey
Ideally
players.
slightly skinny.
And if they're tattooed, they might have had a previous heroin problem.
No heroin. They just need to look like they had a heroin problem without actually having it.
The chic.
Yeah, they need to look like they meddled a lot with drugs, but then never actually did.
And like some issues, because they have to be tattooed, maybe pierced, and like inky black hair.
They don't need to have issues. They just need to have beautiful inky black hair with tattoos and piercing.
All right, guys, you hear that?
You heard it here first.
All right, we're on the Scout now.
Yes.
And we continue reading this book, and we hope you guys follow along with us.
Yeah, and brace yourself for there's lots of reading to do now with 2 trilogies back to back. So you guys, better...
You're welcome.
Better clear your schedules.
It's November now. It is time.
It is time. And you know what? It's only less than 7 weeks to Christmas, so start shopping.
Frightening.
Yeah. It's time to play Christmas music.
Can we please start singing in our podcast again?
To look
like Christmas.
Okay, a bit too early.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerrica and Lia and Theme music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading and on Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'dratherbereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.